based on what the process is in really. So Andy, yesterday, just while you weren't here, just to catch you up before we begin too much, we looked at the Class 2 building in terms of the NCC compliance and planning. It's all recorded and I'll get them up on the share drive. Today we're looking at the Class 3 building, and we had just begun this yesterday afternoon, and we looked at the first two steps. What we do to look at the planning scheme, we identify the zone, which we've identified as GI, general industry, and identified the use. And also as general industry, we had the option to go with light industry perhaps, but we decided on general industry as a group. And that's where we're at. We've identified the clauses by using the zoning table and going to the use that is general industry, and the clauses that it tells us we need to comply with are 6.1, 6.5.1, 6.6 and 9.11. Morning. Who can tell me what they found when they researched there?
Microphone is looking for a place to land. Who's going to tell us?
Come on,
good on you,
The height of any part of a building is not to exceed 8.5 above ground.
8.5 is for the Class 3, the warehouse, the general industry, in general industry zone. Fantastic. Okay, so 8.5. Are we compliant with that? What is the overall height of our building? What?
No, I don't have it.
We don't actually have levels.
No,
Okay, so it'll be to be confirmed, but we do need to have a general idea. It is required. So on your checklist, we're just going to write required. 8.5. We know that's our height limitation.
Oh, we're not doing the checklist. We're just going through the. Is it on the checklist?
Yeah, clauses are on the checklist.
Oh,
Yep.
is it?
Yep. Yep.
It's on there.
Where are you up to? The
The Class 3 checklist.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just beginning it.
You
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we're starting with the planning requirements.
Starting somewhere else. Okay.
No. So this is the
Height limitations.
6.1 height limitations. Height limitation is 8.5 meters. We have confirmed that. That is required, and we can't exceed that if we want to be compliant with the planning scheme. Everyone write that on their checklist.
The elevation is say maximum 8.5 meters, if you like.
So mark up your drawings on this one, on the height of the ridge here. Just put a little note for yourself on the drawing. Maximum height to be no greater than 8.5 meters. Yes, so this is for the Class 3 to 9 building.
Yeah, maximum. Yeah, that's the maximum we can have now. We don't have to reach that. There's no rule that says you have to get there, but that's the limit.
Can I just give you one more minute to get those notes down on your checklist and on your drawings? Okay, moving along, we're going to look at 6.5.1. Let me just scroll to that. Yes, please, if you would get that up. Great. That's okay. So for car parking, I'm just going to quickly run through the calculation for the purposes of this. So we had 84 square meters of office space at 4 for every 100 meters squared in accordance with the planning requirement. That gives us a total of 3.36 spaces required. For the warehouse component, we had 630 meters squared. That gives us a total of 3.36 meters squared. We add up the 6.3 and the 3.36, not meters squared, it's 3.36 parking spaces required. We get a total of 9.66 parking spaces required. Rounding it up gives us 10 parking spaces. Yes. Yes, what I was going to say about car parking spaces. So if you've got a client that ever comes to you and says, I've got a warehouse and I've got a mezzanine, just like what we've just looked at, and all I want to do is, we've been using it as a storage space, but you know, I've got 2 new staff and they really need somewhere to sit, so I'm just going to put a couple of desks up there, and I'm going to turn it into an office space. So, what does that tell you now after the calculation we've just done? What difference does that make? Bit of a challenging question, but that's a real life scenario that happens all the time. You're going to need more parking spaces, yeah, because you're going to need to do either a variation. You have to talk to the planners about this. Either a variation to your original planning development permit, or you may need to apply for a whole new planning development permit. So your actually change of use from store to office immediately triggers a different calculation for the car parking. And it's often one that clients just don't realise is even there, that they're ever going to have to address. They just think, I've got the space, I'm just going to change of use. They're not thinking, oh, it may mean that my external area is now non-compliant. Okay, moving swiftly along, 6.6. What is 6.6? Who can tell me about 6.6? Loading bay. Okay, Yuan, you're on.
Yep.
Tell me what happened with the loading bay in this instance.
So one loading bay needs to be provided for this space. Be at least 7.5 meters by 3.5 meters area, and the clearance of 4 meters high.
4 meters high, okay. And on the plans that you received, where was the loading bay indicated?
To the northwest of the building.
The building, okay. And was it internal or external?
Internal of the
It was
warehouse area.
internal of the warehouse area, okay. So have we got an internal clearance height of 4 meters?
That needs to be...
We would go to a section, hopefully, that is shown on the section.
Still need to be confirmed.
We don't have any sections, so it does need to be confirmed,
Needs to be
okay.
confirmed still.
So we do have elevations, and on the elevations it shows the doors. Can you identify the door that leads to the loading bay area, please, for me? Okay. In addition to the area that's indicated on the plans over the loading bay area needing to be, what was the requirement, 4 meters high?
Yes, ma'am.
The roller door also needs to be 4 meters high. So no point in loading up this big truck inside 4 meters high, but he's stuck inside the building, can't go anywhere. So the door has to be 4 meters high as well if you internally have a loading bay. So, of course, this clause is required. Please mark as required on your checklist. Please write a little note there. Check roller shutter door meets the requirements for 4 meter height. Check internal space has 4 meter height requirement. Do we have the actual area for the loading bay? That's actually marked on the plan, and that's compliant, is it? It's already marked. No dimensions, but it's already there. So when you're making your planning application, you have to notate where the loading bay area is on the plan. But just to note, this application, it is loading bay is internal. Often you'll have loading bays that are external, and both are equally compliant. Okay, so we're moving on to 9.1.1. So setbacks, 9.1.1. Who can tell me about the setbacks? Had a look at, has everyone had a chance to have a look at this yet? Yep. Nicole, would you like to tell me about what you found out about the setbacks?
For the general industrial,
Yeah, general industrial, yes.
the buildings have a frontage to the street minimum setback of 3 meters,
Okay.
and the minimum setback for the at least one side to the boundary and to the rear boundary has to be a minimum of 5 meters.
5 meters. So we've got buildings having a frontage to all other streets. What about the primary street? And I'm only asking that because I can't see it myself. So industrial setbacks. The purpose of this clause is to ensure that buildings are sited and provide adequate level of visual amenity, even in an industrial zone. All street frontages except access driveways or footpaths are to be landscaped to a minimum depth of 3 metres. Do you see that point 3 there? That's really important to note. You're going to have to provide 3 metres deep in plan, landscaped strip to all street frontages. How many street frontages do we have in this project? One street frontage. On that site plan, can you mark a strip along that front boundary and dimension 3 metres on it and write landscaped area? That is something you're going to have to advise your client that they have to do to comply with the setbacks here.
This is the landscape area.
3 metres.
So remember, setbacks run parallel to the block, so this one's not rectangular like we're used to, from an angle, and so the setbacks run parallel.
It's an offset, so you take that boundary line, whatever angle it's on, and you offset it 3 metres back, and you retain the angle. What's the actual setback, though? 3 metres. It doesn't say that.
Is there a table?
Here's the table.
Yeah, the table says for, has a table there.
Frontage. So if you're fronting...
Okay, so all other streets
Major
other than
roads.
Stewart Highway, Bagger Road, that's why, it's all other streets. I was like, what other
5
streets?
metres for the big ones. isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so 3 metre setback to the primary boundary, make note of that, and then obviously make note that it needs to be landscaped as well. A lot of commercial buildings try and put car parking in this area, and we've certainly in Darwin had lots of industrial areas where they just look like giant car parks when you drive down the street, because every single yard has just got cars parked right up to probably a chain wire mesh fence. Visually, it's not particularly pretty, so the planning scheme has adopted this 3 metre of landscaping rule in industrial areas, so that hopefully when we drive down Winnelly Road or Berrima Road or Pinelands, any of those places in the future, we'll be driving on a street that has some on-street car parking, then has a landscape strip for 3 metres, and then any parking that's associated with the industrial area will be screened off from the road.
Did you see a little note in there that said that it has to be maintained for the life of the project, the landscaping? So you can't just have it long enough to get the permit and be inspected and then let it die and pave over. You have to maintain the
Maintain for the life of the development. Yeah. Okay, so important always to read those little notes at the beginning, they'll give you a good guide. So 3 metre setback to the primary boundary. What about our side and rear boundaries? The minimum setback to at least one side boundary and to the rear boundary has to be 5 metres. So what are our other setbacks looking like? Can we achieve 5 metres on both of our side boundaries? Or at least one of them?
I believe it's this side.
Does anybody want to hazard a guess which side we should choose for our 5 metre setback?
No, the south is the primary.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was looking at
East. So why are we choosing the east? Because it has an easement. We're not actually quite sure at this point in time how wide that easement is, but we'll assume it's a minimum of 3 metres. It could be actually greater in an industrial area. We'll find that out from our site survey. So we're going to say that the side that the easement is on, we're going to say that we're going to allow a 5 metre setback minimum there for planning.
Well, that is 3 metres. And that's like greater.
We don't know that this is 3 metres.
Oh, okay.
I'll
say that there.
It could be greater.
Are we saying that?
Because I got my rule and I did like 5 metres and did it on the paper, and I was like, oh, like it's just on it. So it's,
Yeah.
So it's drawn fairly accurately.
Drawn
just a sketch.
fairly
so
accurately.
you
I
can't.
want to say it is, if that's what I did.
What we're
Okay,
really
so how
saying is
how-
it needs to be this. Not that it is, but
Yeah.
it needs to be this. It has
Yeah.
to be achieved.
So draw on that side, that's the side that we're going to select, the easement side. The east side is the side we're going to select to provide a
build there
5
anyway.
metre setback.
Mm.
Now, how would we actually confirm how wide the easement is?
Maybe the council?
No,
Oh, yeah.
survey plan. Where would we get the survey plan?
And on that.
In our maps. You've got it there? should tell you on that what our easement is.
Got it?
Is it our side?
Raphael?
Yes, this one, so it's 4.035.
4.035 as read from the title drawing. That is the actual width of our easement. So that is 4.35 metres that we are not permitted to build anything on anyway. So we might as well select that to be our side to have the 5 metre step back. What about the other side boundary? What do we have to have for the other side boundary? $10 gold stars if you can tell me the answer to this. No?
It's on there.
What did you just say? None. 10
None.
gold stars.
There's none, but like,
Zero.
you can't be right on the boundary line, can you?
Yeah.
Can you?
In an
Yep.
industrial area, you
Industrial
can.
area, absolutely you can.
Yep.
In any area you can, but it's not compliant in other areas. In this area, if you were to build to a 0 setback, it's actually still a compliant application. So you can't go. So you only have to do the 5 metre setback on one side boundary.
But what would happen if the NCC found out you were building on the 0 lot line? What clause would kick in automatically? Fire? Fire rating? Because you're right next to the neighbours. So just because planning says you can build there doesn't mean you don't have to use the NCC rules for fire. They're not related.
So you would have to build of construction a fire rating level. Remember the FRL levels, the 60, 60, 60, or whatever the NCC will tell us to do. We will have to be considering fire rated construction if we're building to a 0 lot line. And what about our rear setback? 5 metres. So have all of your setbacks marked up on your site plan at this point in time. Have your checklist filled out. Very similar to what Lisa has drawn very kindly there on the board for me. And that's it for the planning application for our Class 3 warehouse development. Is everybody happy with what they found there? There's no lingering questions burning in around your brains going, oh, that's not quite right. In this job, if you ever have that gut feeling or that lingering doubt going, I think it's 3 metres, but I'm not quite sure, it could be, maybe, don't know, you need to find out. There's no maybes, I don't know, I'll presume, in this industry. You just need to find out. You talk to the right people and you find out the answer to that. Okay, going to leave it there for planning.